Welcome to Currently, the conversation. I'm Christal Frost. Today we're diving into a topic that impacts nearly every corner of our economy and community, workforce development. I'm joined by Janie McNabb, Chief Executive Officer of Networks Northwest, the regional planning and workforce development organization serving the 10 counties of Northwest Lower Michigan. Now, before we start, a quick disclaimer for our viewers and listeners. For the past 2 years, I've been honored to work for Networks Northwest as the Regional Director of the Offender Success Reentry Program, which helps returning citizens successfully transition back into our communities after incarceration. Our team focuses on housing, employment, transportation, behavioral health, and social support, the essentials that make long-term stability and success possible. With that said, this conversation is designed to inform and explore the broader mission and impact of Networks Northwest as a whole. Janie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you.
It's really great to have you here. One of the things that I love about the Networks Northwest family is really like the deep history. It has been an integral part of the 10-county region for over 50 years. I mean, I think we're going on 51, right?
Mm-hmm. Celebrated 50 last year.
Yes, indeed. Now, can you take us through a brief history, maybe a little history lesson about the origins of and the foundation of Networks Northwest?
Sure. It's hard to be brief
because
there's a lot. But workforce development programming has been around since the Great Depression in various forms. But in the 1960s, a lot of that programming was only available to larger urban areas because you had to reach a certain population threshold in order to bring those programs. So around the country, states started recognizing that local governments could come together and do things together for shared purposes. And so Michigan passed an act called the Urban Cooperation Act, which allowed the 10 counties of Northwest Lower Michigan to come together, create a new entity, and therefore reach that population threshold and bring those workforce development programs to our region. And that happened in 1974.
And that actually gave birth to the Northwest Michigan Council of Governments.
Yes.
So people might have, knowing this program, Networks Northwest, you might know it as the COG originally, right?
Yes, that's going back a ways. But yes, there are councils of governments around the country. But our 10 member counties, our members are our 10 counties across the region. And we were originally established to focus on workforce development, but we evolved over time, and that Council of Governments entity became the regional planning organization for the region as well.
Oh, yeah. And so, I mean, we're not going to get into a ton of planning today.
I know.
I was thinking about this. I'm like, we would need an entirely different, separate podcast for that. And maybe we will get to that at another time. But really talking about workforce development, I think it's important to talk about the importance of it and how it really does kind of connect all different sectors. I want to ask you about you personally. Now, you stepped into the CEO role last spring of 2024, but you're no stranger to workforce and community development. You've worked in different capacities for many years. So can you give me a little background about you and what drew you to that kind of field?
Sure. I'm proud to say I was born and raised in Traverse City and have lived here my whole life.
It's
Not
fantastic.
Very many people can say that. So I have seen a lot of change over that time period. And I actually think back to when I was in 6th grade and my father lost his job. And that was such an impact on his perception of his role as a provider and his identity. I think it really had an impact on me. He recovered. We were fine. But fast forward to getting out of college, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, and I discovered Michigan Works, which was then called JobNet, actually. But administered by the Council of Governments, like we are now. And I started at the front desk in the Traverse City Service Center. So in 1998, I was greeting people as they came in to get job search assistance after they'd lost their jobs. And that same thing showed through, that people, when they lose their jobs, it just underscores how important our careers are to us, to our identity, to our families. And it became a passion of mine.
You know, I have seen people walking in through the front doors of Michigan Works, not from the point of view of, the person who's at the front desk now, but you see just sort of this kind of underlying fear, vulnerability, and really sort of insecurity. And so it takes a real special person to be able to kind of ground that individual immediately and understand this is not their very best day.
Yeah. It takes a lot of empathy.
Yeah. I would say so. So you actually, started your grown-up job career, I would say, with this same, organization. Were there like specific experiences or mentors that, kind of shaped, your growth in at Networks Northwest and really kind of your experience moving from the front desk into connecting people maybe in a more macro scale?
Yeah, definitely. At the time, I enjoyed working with the public, but I saw my strengths being better utilized in administration. So I moved into that, and I was in a variety of roles. But that allowed me to see various aspects of the workforce development programs. The job seeker side, the business services side, and all, the adult education and reentry programs. I did do communications for us, first ever communications department.
Oh, wow.
Built the first website.
Oh, wow.
That was a challenge at the time. But yeah, so I think in moving through some of those different roles and seeing all the aspects of the programs and services and how they impact people, and especially the partnerships.
Yeah.
I had great mentors in Jan Warren and Elaine Wood, but also colleagues, Sarah Lucas, Jessica Willis. Really just, I glean so much from the people I work with. And learn a lot from working together.
I think it's really, it's a pretty special situation, though, for someone who can be in a leadership position, the leadership position, the top, and also say to an individual, like, I've done that job. I get it. Yeah. Like, you have empathy, for people who are now kind of working with you and for you, you know?
Yeah, I've felt the pain.
You're like, I get it. I understand that. I want to move into talking about workforce in a changing economy right now. And workforce development has always mattered. As you said, it's got a long history. But there's a part of me that feels like it's more urgent than ever. What are the biggest forces that are shaping Michigan's workforce right now? And how are they showing up here in Northwest Michigan?
Interesting to think about it from a statewide perspective because for many years, economic development efforts would really drive job creation, which traditionally is bringing big businesses to the state and setting up large companies and offering hundreds of jobs at a time.
And a lot of incentives.
And those are not very popular anymore. No. So we're not going to see that kind of job creation for the distant future, I think. I think that's kind of stalled. So the shift is probably going to really focus more on small businesses, especially in rural areas like ours, and keeping the businesses we have. And making sure that, I foresee it as a partnership with existing employers to really invest in their workforce and train up from within.
Yeah, and I think that need for skilled labor, skilled employees is always present. It feels like that, especially in the last, maybe 20 years that I've really been paying attention. What industries in general right now do you think are facing the most significant shortages or skill gaps?
Healthcare and construction.
Yeah.
Statewide, nationwide, that's where the data points. In our 10-county region, Healthcare is the largest industry, provides the most jobs.
Wow, okay.
And most people think, well, it's got to be hospitality, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's healthcare. Most of those jobs are in Grand Traverse County because of Munson.
And obviously, I mean, because of our demographics, specifically in Grand Traverse and Leelanau County, we really skew older. Yeah. Isn't it something like 52% or something is over the age of 55?
Yeah, I'm not sure the exact number. But yes, it's definitely leaning towards older. It's a retirement destination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that means that older adults are going to need more and more health care, which means we need more and more people. Yes. Absolutely. I get
providing those services.
Yeah. That's a good deal.
I do want to mention that in the other counties around Grand Traverse, manufacturing is up there on the top, close to the top. But construction is everywhere. All 10 counties.
Yeah. I overheard someone at an event that I attended today who said, if you are a contractor in the 10-county region, you will never run out of business.
Yeah.
Never. You could have it for lifetimes. It's very true.
I believe it.
So how is Networks Northwest, through programs like Michigan Works, how are you responding to this need?
We have lots of workforce development programs, but we look at things from both the job seeker and the employer side.
Right.
So when I look at the job seeker services, we have kind of a funnel. Mm-hmm. So anyone can walk into a Michigan Works Service Center and get help with their job search. It's it can be self-directed. Okay. And facilitated or guided by staff who are there.
Okay.
If you need more, if you need some one-on-one support, if you have challenges that maybe some other people don't have, we probably have a specialized program for you.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's when we can work one-on-one with you. We can provide some supportive services. Look at training possibilities and so forth.
Okay. And that's on the job seeker
side.
But I love that you said, you emphasize the business side just as much and business services side, because it's really kind of hard to determine what the community needs if you're not in communication with the businesses who are employing people, right?
Exactly.
I wanted to ask a little bit about that employer side. You're working, your business services, they're working with everyone from, family-owned small businesses to large manufacturers that you were talking about. Mm-hmm. What are the biggest challenges that they're hearing from employers are hearing, that you are hearing from employers, and how are you trying to help them adapt?
Yeah. It's interesting how things have changed, but stayed the same.
Right.
The more things change, the more things stay the same. 25 years ago, Department of Health and Human Services did a survey of everyone on assistance programs about what are the top barriers to getting and keeping a job. And they were childcare, transportation, and housing.
Okay, yeah.
So those have been the big three, that's what I call them, the big three, for decades.
Okay.
What I'm seeing change is that employers now recognize that.
And they're responding to it.
And they are responding to it. It wasn't always on their radar. It's always been there, but it wasn't always on their radar. And now they're recognizing the housing market being an issue when trying to attract talent, the lack of available childcare, making it so people can't come back to work or have to change their hours in order to accommodate that.
Right.
So a lot of those more social needs, I think, are the things we hear about from companies.
Right. And not everyone. I mean, if you have a small business, you might not be able to open a daycare,
Exactly.
But you're talking about hearing the need and then working with maybe several individuals, several organizations, maybe collaborating to try to solve some of that need in other ways.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to ask specifically about some of those programs that are popular programs that I would say are, from the employer side, things that Michigan Works is providing. And one of them is registered apprenticeships. And I have to mention this because I just saw that there was a big registered apprenticeships gathering. The graduation. It was full of smiles. And how does a registered apprenticeship work? As you were mentioning that funnel.
Yeah.
If you're walking through the doors of Michigan Works, maybe all you need is going to be a little help over here, maybe tweaking your resume or things like that. How do you get to that point in the funnel?
Well, it's because we have staff dedicated to working with the companies that offer apprenticeships.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's the perspective we look at it from. Right. Many companies will want to train up someone who's already on their staff and then backfill. And then now there's a pipeline to continue training because they know the person.
Yeah,
you know, they're kind of trusted. And so we work with companies on very customized apprenticeship programs. 106 different occupations.
Wow.
We've trained over 600 apprentices in the last 10 years that we've been doing this. In all kinds of occupations and working with businesses of all sizes across the whole region.
I love, there's a lot of love that comes from me about apprenticeships because it's such an old world view. You can take it back to Middle Ages where there was an apprentice for the person who was going to do, it just feels very, very, very ancient. Yeah. And yet... Here it is.
Proven?
It's proven. Yeah. It's alive and well, and it's working in Northwest Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's especially effective for rural areas.
Yeah.
Pretty popular workforce development strategy in larger urban areas is, you have a need for a certain industry like welders. You can run a whole cohort through a class, and once they're done, businesses will hire them.
Yeah.
We don't have the critical mass for that.
Okay.
And so apprenticeships are very customizable and they're very individual. And you're working with both the employee and the employer. The employee is getting a paycheck while they're learning and getting a credential.
That's huge.
Right? The employer is getting someone who's learning things to their own standards and to their own specifications. Can't tell you how many times I've heard companies say, if I could just clone this one person who's been with me for 30 years, well, this is how you clone them.
Right.
As you build an apprenticeship. And the value that we provide as a program is we have the whole framework and structure. So companies don't have to figure out what does the training plan look like? Where do I even start with that? We have it.
How does that kind of, very specific program differ from maybe one that people know a little bit more about, the Going Pro Talent Fund, and how business services are working with individuals and employers in that capacity?
Yeah. I look at Going Pro Talent Fund as more of a short-term training strategy.
Okay.
You can use it for apprenticeships, which of course is longer term, but it is designed to help a company upskill their workforce so they can remain competitive, become more competitive, expand if they need to, and invest in their workforce.
Right.
So it is like there's a whole continuum of strategies, right? It is Going Pro supports that shorter term training in a workplace.
And that training it can be very, very different based on the employer need.
Yeah.
What are you seeing a lot of employers who are looking for when it comes to training in that short-term capacity? Is there one thing that seems to be the hot need right now?
Lean, especially for manufacturing.
Oh, right.
Quality assurance it's been really popular, but it has the data to back it up. I mean, they can point to exactly how much efficiency they're gaining by learning and implementing those lean strategies.
Lean strategies.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a big one. But we have all kinds of different trainings that people do with that Going Pro Talent Fund.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit more and shift gears in just a moment. We're going to speak to kind of the adult education when you talk about the lifelong learning aspect of things that can be essential in some cases for when you're walking through those doors and you're entering into that funnel. You may, find yourself in that atmosphere. We're going to do that in just a moment. But first, a word for the Fresh Coast Film Festival. And you know how much I love a good film festival. And the Fresh Coast Film Fest is one of my absolute favorites. There's just something about the combination of great stories and breathtaking visuals and that shared energy of people who truly get the magic of the Great Lakes. Well, something really special is coming to Traverse City this spring, and you can be a part of it. You can join your community for the very first Fresh Coast Film Festival Traverse City edition. It's running April 30th through May 3rd, 2026, all around the gorgeous Boardman Lake District. It is entirely walkable, bikeable, maybe even paddleable, or I guess swimmable if you're brave. You're going to be celebrating Midwest stories and filmmakers. Expect film screenings with visiting artists, outdoor adventurers, social collisions at parties and panels, and screenings in some truly unlikely places. And here's my favorite part. It is 100% volunteer run by people who live and work here year-round, like you and me. If you love our outdoor lifestyle, this festival is absolutely for you. And early bird passes and tickets are on sale right now at traversecity.freshcoastfilm.com. Welcome back to Currently the Conversation. Now, Janie, we were talking about so many programs that Networks Northwest and Michigan Works provides. And adult education, I think, is such a vital piece of that workforce system. There are still many people who are not graduating high school in sort of the formal way, that maybe we're used to, that K through 12 program. And for many, many reasons, things can happen that kind of set you off track. But there is a pathway to an opportunity to get your education. So how does adult education fit into that overall strategy with Networks Northwest and within the Michigan Works system?
Well, data shows us, population data shows us that there are about 15,000 people in the 10-county region with less than a high school diploma.
Wow.
That's working age, 25 and older.
Okay.
So that's a lot of lost potential.
Yeah.
High school diploma is such a foundational credential that we really shouldn't be seeing those kinds of numbers.
Right.
We should be going out of our way to provide support that's needed to make that happen for people. So that is a really critical piece of the strategy, because if a person is going to go through a training at the company where they work, funded by Going Pro Talent Fund, but they don't have the math skills to go through the training because either they didn't complete high school or they really didn't get those skills at the time, they need help. They need support, and they can go through our program and get support there.
How does it work for... I'm thinking about this for adults who might be hesitant to return to education, which I can completely understand that. And when you have that sort of hesitation because you don't want to take that leap, it's a very vulnerable place to be. You are kind of cutting yourself off of those opportunities to move up in the workforce. So this is a very specialized staff as well.
It is.
that are really meeting people where they are. Can you tell us a little bit about how they're doing that? Maybe with someone who's going, I just don't know if I have the time, or I'm afraid.
Yeah. A couple of things. We've seen people exit the education system before they got their diploma.
Right.
And going back to that same system is not desirable.
Yeah.
It was not where they had good experiences. So our learning labs are in the Michigan Works Service Centers. It doesn't feel like a school. You're surrounded by other adults, and you're focused on getting your education for the purposes of improving your employment prospects. The other thing that's unique about our program is that when you come in, we go through an assessment to see where you're at in terms of your skills. And then we customize your learning plan to that. So if you already know fractions, you don't have to spend time learning fractions.
Thank goodness.
Right? And it's surprising. People can actually get through it a lot quicker than they realize.
Wow, yeah. So it's tailored.
It's tailored.
It's tailored to your needs.
Each individual person.
And then, I'm wondering too, because I did have the privilege of attending one of the adult education graduations, and it was frankly, one of the most emotional nights.
Yes.
What I think is really important about that program in general is the measure of success beyond just the test score or the credential or here's your diploma. It is like you can see a change in an individual in a molecular level almost. I mean, there's something truly different about them when they walk across that stage.
It is a transformational journey.
Yeah.
Partially because they have gone through all kinds of challenges and barriers in their life and still made this happen.
Yeah.
So many people do it because they now have children going through education system and they want to be a role model.
When you see people holding babies or holding toddlers' hands walking across,
right.
That is amazing.
it really is.
You can see why people stay in the work. You really can.
Absolutely.
And on that note, I think it's important to move over to some of the pressures and budget cuts that we've seen in not just this year, but in previous years. We have seen workforce development on the chopping block year after year. Not always to the degree of what people maybe are anticipating, but this year we did see cuts at both the state and possible federal level. From your perspective, when you're seeing those cuts or you're thinking about whether or not they might continue, what is truly at stake for our communities when that happens?
If that happens, I think you'll see a bigger divide between people who are able to do it on their own versus people who have challenges, who will fall farther behind because they don't have the support they need to get caught up and to get to a place where they can truly be productive in the workforce.
When you think about that, though, I mean, as we've just kind of described, you're talking about workforce not just being the individual who's walking through the door. It is the business owner. It is the big manufacturing company. It's the person looking, to better themselves, really. And ultimately, I think you don't really have to be a genius to understand when people are trying to better themselves, it's going to better the community.
Yeah.
So realistically, you would see kind of a domino effect, I would imagine. It is the people who can do it on their own and have those skills to make that happen. But you're also going to see a lot of people and a lot of businesses left behind, potentially, right?
Absolutely. And one of the reasons that we exist as an organization is we see the synergy amongst talent, business, and community.
Right.
So if you don't have a supported, skilled workforce, your businesses aren't going to thrive. They're not going to be able to support the community to provide the amenities and quality of life that we all love about living here. And then our talent's going to start leaving. We aren't going to attract talent. It's definitely a domino or a ripple effect across many different factors.
Workforce development and economic development, too, as you talked about before, I mean, they've been kind of viewed differently, but, developing a workforce is economic development. And I do feel a lot of hope in that. It feels as though politicians, policymakers on both sides of the aisle really do understand the importance of workforce development. It's just trying to get them, to see that it's something that's worth funding.
Absolutely. I've had a lot of really positive responses from both sides of the aisle, legislators at every level.
Yeah.
And workforce development has always been a bipartisan issue.
It feels like it, right?
Yeah. It makes sense. You invest in the workforce, everything else has a great return.
Yeah.
So now it's more a matter of recognizing the movement towards reducing government. And these are government-funded programs.
Right.
Northwest Michigan Works is a nonprofit, but we receive funding from state and federal governments in order to operate.
Right. Like many nonprofits.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as we're looking ahead for Networks Northwest, Michigan Works in 2026 and beyond, what are you thinking about as far as new collaborations or innovations, or what are your priorities going to be? Which I think is kind of a tough question to ask a CEO. In the next year, what are your priorities? But if you can kind of give us an idea of year and maybe 5 years out, maybe 10 years out.
Sure. All of those, year 5 and 10 years, I have a priority of maintaining our local control and flexibility.
Yeah.
Everybody knows government programs come with a lot of strings attached, and our programs are no exception. But we have enough flexibility because of the way workforce programs are structured that we can respond to the needs of the community. We're not forced to do that kind of training model I described earlier that is best for urban areas. We have been strategic and put a lot of resources and effort behind apprenticeships because we know it works locally.
Specifically, yeah.
And we had the ability to do that.
Right.
That's something I will protect forever because we need to be responsive.
Yeah.
We need to be able to meet the needs of our local communities.
I think that's so important too, because I do think that there's this sort of idea, and I don't know that it's ever, there's never one person that's in Lansing that's just like, here's the cookie cutter concept, but it sometimes feels like that.
Yeah.
Like, do it like they did in Wayne County, and you're like, well, Missaukee is not Wayne County.
Not at all.
And even within the 10 counties, there are so many differences. The needs, the wants, what someone in Wexford is expecting is going to be very different than someone in Emmett. And we need to understand and respect that. So I guess it's the same thing when you're saying to Lansing, like, that's not going to work here.
Right, exactly.
But this will.
This will,
and
right.
that's nice.
Yeah.
That's good to know. What about some of the other things? I mean, Networks Northwest has so many collaborative efforts. Is there anything in particular that you're really excited about right now?
I have been starting to think more and more about our role in building awareness and educating communities and different stakeholder groups. One example being the simulations that the OS Reentry team runs. It's building awareness about the realities of some of these barriers and challenges that our workforce and our neighbors have to go through.
Yeah.
Another example, in our planning department, we are creating an education program for high school students to learn what planning is.
Oh, cool.
Right?
Yeah.
So those kinds of things really excite me because I love that we have a lot of expertise to share.
Yeah.
And I want to position us as find out, let us help you understand.
And in the role that, my team with OS Reentry has played in those reentry simulations, it has evolved over the last year since we've been doing them. The whole idea behind it, though, was to offer people perspective. And I think that's what we want to do in general.
Yes.
Is try to remember what people are experiencing on any given day, whether it's someone who just lost their job, whether it's your father who, that was kind of a something that maybe changed him a bit,
right.
and it changed you, and it led you into this work, and then offering that perspective for people in all different walks of life. I think that would be great.
Yeah.
Well, what can listeners or viewers, if you're watching this right now, what can you do, whether you're a business owner or a job seeker, an educator, or local official? How can people engage or partner with the team at Networks Northwest and Michigan Works?
I would start at our website, networksnorthwest.org. Across the top is, and on the page is talent, business, and community. So explore that. You will find your way to contact information.
Yeah.
However, if you are a job seeker, you can come in.
Yeah.
If you are an employer, you can call and get connected to your business services representative. And from there, you're going to see all the different programs we offer.
Okay.
Whether it's adult ed, we have a whole very robust youth program that works in the schools and so forth. So
yeah. I think about it when you've used the analogy of a funnel, and I just keep thinking about Bob Barker and the Plinko game, where you're like, here's the chip, where are you going to fall? But it is very true of like, there's a lot of different outcomes based on your needs.
Yes.
So you may just really need to know who's hiring, and that's okay. That's a part of it.
That's a success.
Right. It's a huge success. And then there's also the part of it where you're going, I may need to be in contact with someone from adult ed.
Right.
Because maybe this is something I'm ready to tackle before I move into this other area.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I want to say thank you so much for your time today and for your work with, the entire team, for everything that you're doing to strengthen Northwest Michigan and the economy and the community and the whole thing. So thank you so much for that. And as Janie said, to learn more about Networks Northwest and Northwest Michigan Works, you can visit networksnorthwest.org. Thank you for listening and watching today. And be sure to subscribe to the Currently News Roundup podcast and Currently The Conversation. They're both at christalfrost.com. You can watch full episodes on YouTube and on Facebook. You can listen wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow Currently with Christal Frost everywhere. We are on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and TikTok. And join us next week as we welcome KB Stein, founder and creative director of Hearsay Storytelling. For Currently The Conversation, I'm Christal Frost. Thanks for watching.